Hola. What's up, everybody? Welcome back.
Mic check. Mic check. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, scroll out a little bit of what we're probably going to hear here in a couple of minutes.
Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check.
They open
1
up these
2
pressers.
1 2 3 1.
Oh,
1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1.
Oh!
Of NTSB
Okay.
are going to come out here today. We are initially probably going to get what they call a tick-tock. What that is,
Tick-tock.
not a social media app, of course. This will be
Don't stop.
a point-by-point description from NTSB of exactly not only what happened with American Airlines 5342, but also what was going on with that helicopter. NTSB investigators will up.
So, man, how you guys doing today? We're waiting for the NTSB update. The NTSB, man, they're the people that do the investigations for these aircraft crashes. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB. Some, identities have come out. We'll talk more about it after, but the pilots, these are the pilots for the flight, the airplane. Captain Jonathan Campos, 34 years old, young guys. And Officer Sam Lilly, 28 years old. Young guys, okay, doing the thing. Now, this person, Sam, was 28, and he's a father, also a pilot. He was engaged to be married, and he started training in 2019 and was the first officer on the flight. And this guy, Ryan O'Hara, he was identified as one of the soldiers that was killed last night, mid-air collision. He leaves behind a wife and a 1-year-old son. Sad. Oh, apparently, Chuck Schumer had some words for Donald Trump after that press conference we watched. Let's take a look.
Mr. President, this morning, our hearts go out to everyone impacted by the horrible, heartbreaking incident at Reagan Washington National Airport last night. I've been briefed on the horrific incident at DCA and have continued to monitor the situation. My heart goes out to everyone who was impacted by this incident. I'm praying for the victims, their families, and our brave first responders as we monitor the situation. But I have to tell you, I just watched President Trump's news conference. Listen, it's one thing for internet pundits to spew off conspiracies. It's another for the President of the United States to throw out idle speculation as bodies are still being recovered and families are still notified. It just turns your stomach.
That was Chuck. He had some comments after the press conference that Trump had. Good afternoon, guys. If you guys could hit the like button too on the way in, I'd appreciate that. I'll read off some of the updates while we wait.
That's a given. The worst case scenario in this situation.
Army pilots had at least 1,500 hours of flight hours between them. The instructor pilot on the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter was conducting a training mission over the river on Wednesday. He had about 1,000 hours, and the co-pilot had about 500 hours, according to the Army official. Both are considered experienced, given that the Black Hawk training missions typically last around 2 hours each. So they've flown many times, seems like. You're divided. Father of one of the American Airlines pilots killed says it hurts so bad I can't even cry myself to sleep. Damn. Samuel Lilly, 28, his father, spoke with CNN. Oh, man. So far, according to Yahoo, 28 bodies recovered. No survivors expected.
I'm gonna sit down right now because we're about to begin. Okay?
They're about to get started.
I can.
Hopefully they'll give some information. Good information.
Remember Chapman. Stay within that border there.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Homendy, and I'm the chairwoman of the National Transportation Safety Board. The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation and serious accident and serious incident in the United States and significant events in other modes of transportation. I want to start by expressing our deepest condolences, our sympathies on behalf of the entire board for those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. Our thoughts, our prayers are with you. Entire communities were affected, and we are thinking of you. With me today is Bryce Banning. Bryce is a senior aircraft accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. He's also going to serve as our investigator in charge of this investigation. Also with me today is the entire board. We have Todd Inman, member Todd Inman. Todd is going to serve as the board member on scene, the spokesperson for this investigation. All of the board members will be here. We have Vice Chairman Alvin Brown, member Mike Graham, who lived in Wichita for 20 years, and we also have member Tom Chapman. The NTSB's headquarters is just a mile from here. And so we are all here because this is an all-hands on-deck event. And we're here to assure the American people that we are going to leave no stone unturned in this investigation. We are going to conduct a thorough investigation of this entire tragedy, looking at the facts. Now, with that, I want to level set. When we go to the scene, and we were here last night, we allow the responders to do their important safety mission, which in this case was search and rescue and recovery. We stand back to allow them to do their important safety mission. And so this, for us, is our first full day on scene with our entire crew coming together. We have about nearly 50 people on scene, and in addition to our resources back at headquarters in our labs and throughout the agency. So with that said, we are not going to get into specific facts in this press conference. I want to level set here. We're going to get into our investigative process. As we are able to confirm factual information, we will provide that. I do want to say this is a whole of government effort. I was able to brief, along with others, the President of the United States and the Vice President this afternoon. I want to thank them for their leadership, for their tremendous support, NTSB, for our investigators, and for the responders that are on scene doing an important mission. I also want to thank Secretary Sean Duffy, who I was communicating with early on after we first got word of this tragedy, We've been working together throughout the day. along with his team at the DOT and within FAA. I also want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was also integral in working with us today. Chris Rochelot, the acting administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration. We've heard from many members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, and so I will say this is a tremendous, one more time, whole of government effort. I also want to take a moment and thank the many, many responders that have been on scene. It has been an incredible effort, and I will have a full list that I will provide, that we will provide tomorrow, but I do want to thank them for all their work. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Member Inman for additional remarks.
So today is our first road day on scene. Our investigative team will be on scene as long as it takes in order to obtain all of the perishable evidence and all the fact-finding that is needed to bring us to a conclusion of probable cause. Our mission is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from happening again. Since we're just beginning our investigation, we don't have a great deal of information to share right now. We will keep you informed by giving regular updates as we learn more. Our intention is to have a preliminary report within 30 days, and the final report will be issued once we've completed all of our fact-finding and investigation. Now, we will not be determining the probable cause of the accident while we are here on scene, nor will we speculate about what may have caused this accident. Today, we will be going and having an organizational meeting and establishing our parties to our investigation. We currently have the following parties that are already identified: PSA Airlines, GE Aerospace, Sikorsky, FAA, NACTA, which represents the air traffic controllers, ALPA, which represents the pilots, Army, AFA, which represents the flight attendants. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be an accredited representative under Annex 13 of ICAO. They will be supplemented by MHIRG as a technical advisor. They were previously known as Bombardier. The NTSB offers this party status to those companies, government agencies, and associations that have employees, activities, or equipment involved in the accident. We offer that because they will provide technical expertise and relevant information supporting the development of the best possible factual record. Once they join this investigation, they are not permitted to release documents or talk publicly about the investigation without the consent of the NTSB. So I want to stress this. It is only the NTSB that will provide information related to this investigation, with one exception. Regarding the fatalities that occurred, that notification will be handled by the DC medical examiner. We will not be discussing fatalities or names. That will be handled by them as the proper authority. So we want to talk a little bit about our process. We will analyze the facts and determine the probable cause of the accident, and then issue a report of those determinations. I also want to talk a little bit about some additional people that are here with us, and they're very important to us, and that is our family assistance group. Later today, we will be briefing the families. We normally try to do this before a media event, but in this case, they're still arriving. Our family assistance specialists are already working closely with local officials and others to help assist them in their efforts to support everyone that's affected by this accident. And let me just reiterate what the chair said. A loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States, and our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, it affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened. We will do it factually, and we will do it accurately. As part of this, we're going to be standing up some specific working groups. Those working groups will be operations. They will be looking at the history of the accident flight, crew members' duties, for as many days before the crash as appears relevant. We'll be forming a structures group, which will be the documentation of the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculation of impact angles to help determine the plane's pre-impact course and altitude. We'll have a power plants group. They will do the examination of the engines and the engine accessories. We'll have a systems group. They will study the components of the plane's hydraulic, electrical, pneumatic, and associated systems, together with the instruments and elements of the flight control system. We'll have an air traffic control group. They will do reconstruction and review of air traffic control systems provided to and including acquisition of pertinent flight track surveillance information, what you might typically think of as radar or NTSB, along with controller pilot communications. We will also have a survival factors group. They will be doing the documentation of impact, forces and injuries, community emergency planning, and all crash and fire rescue efforts. Also, due to the unique nature of this crash, we will be having a helicopter group as well. Lastly, we will have a human performance group, and this will not be its own group. It will actually be a part of the operations, air traffic control, and helicopter groups. They will study the crew performance and all before the accident factors that might be involved in human error, including fatigue, medication, medical histories, training, workload, equipment design, and work environment. Now we're going to take a few questions, but I will again stress,
Can't say nothing.
we don't have a lot of information now. We will continue to gather that. We will try to release it as we can, but we will only talk about the facts of the case that we know right now.
So,
I'm going to ask, we'll call on a few people. I'm going to ask that you state your name and affiliation.
James Matthews from
I'm going to turn it back over to Member Emmett.
Yes, Skyler Henry with CBS News. Earlier today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said a mistake was made last night. Based off of you all's initial investigations and preliminary findings, have you all been able to tell whether this was human error or mechanical failure?
The question was, has there been human error or mechanical failure? We don't know what we know just yet. We do not know enough facts to be able to rule in or out human factor, mechanical factors. That is part of the NTSB investigative process, where all of these groups will come together. It's one of the reasons why the NTSB is known as the gold standard. We will take the time that's necessary, but I'd also like to reiterate, if we find something that is a significant issue that warrants immediate action, we will not hesitate to make those recommendations and make them public. We have a good track record on that, and we want to continue doing so. Sir?
Hello, Sir. Tom Costello with NBC News. Does it hurt your investigative process, maybe for the chairman, does it hurt your investigative process to have the president already suggesting possible causes here as you try to keep an open mind and begin this investigation?
They're trying to get them to say something about the president. Yeah, and I think they're trying to avoid it. Let's see.
Tom, with all due respect, I think the press also likes to state what probable cause is before we get to the probable cause. So what I'm going to say is you need to give us time.
Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. They not like us. They not like us.
Information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time to make sure it is accurate. That's best for you. That's important for the families. It's important for legislators who are seeking answers to try to figure out what they're going to do about this. And so it will take time. We do have a lot of information, but we need some time to verify that.
Okay, mama. She's not falling for it.
Yeah,
they're trying to bait her.
Fox Business. I'm wondering about the conditions in the tower last night. Were there any performance issues in the past with any of these controllers? Anything of that nature?
The question is about controllers. As I said, we're just now forming the groups. The controllers do have union representation, which they're entitled to. They'll be working with our party system and our party groups. They'll be conducting interviews. Those interviews will need to be analyzed, transcribed, and other team members will need to look over it. It will be a long process, but we will go through the entire history.
This is crazy.
My question is for the chairwoman. Can you tell us more about what the president, the vice president's responses were when you briefed them this afternoon?
Sure. So The question was about my briefing for the president and the vice president. As is standard, we offer briefings on our process and what we know, and this was a briefing with the president and vice president and with Secretary Duffy and Secretary Hegseth and also the acting administrator of the FAA. There was discussion on what we know so far and our process, and that was about it.
Ma'am, Chairwoman, Stephanie Ramos with ABC News. Similar to Tom.
Gabe Cohen from CNN. Can you tell me if the NTSB has reviewed this FAA internal report that has been cited by the New York Times indicating that the controller that was on duty at the time of the crash was doing a job that's usually done by 2 people?
We have not reviewed any specific reports about the controllers at this time, at least from the leadership team. Our investigators are continuing to pull all that information. Their personnel records, their files, where they were at, whether they were fatigued. All that information will be part of that investigative process. But right now we can't speculate on anything that may have been reported in the media until we get the opportunity to validate and understand how it impacts the investigation. We're going to take just a few more questions.
Sir, follow up on that.
Sir?
Yes, Warren Conheim, Deeper Magazine. What's the process and the logistics like of bringing the families in? Are they coming into the airport? And how are you going to sort of treat the sensitivity of bringing them to the place where this tragedy happened?
So the question is about the families. And many of those families are still en route. Some are still being notified from both the military and from the commercial crash. There is a family assistance facility that's being stood up by American and PSA Airlines in Bethesda, Maryland. They've already been working on that, standing it up. Our team from our disaster assistance team has also been coordinating with them. We plan on briefing them. It is customary that at some point, if the families wish to go to part of the accident site, that we would arrange such a thing, but it will only be when we know that it's safe, we have the correct perishable evidence, and we can do it in the proper modesty that should be for those family members. It will be a little bit of a process, but it will take some time.
Sir, to follow up on the air traffic control stuff.
Now, so, where are you?
I know that Marielle Carver with DC News now. We've heard from some witnesses that they saw people were able to come down the slides of the plane. Has there been any indication that people made it off the plane to the water?
Well, again, we will not speak to the fatalities. The DC medical examiner will, but I think the DC fire chief this morning very succinctly said correctly that we believe there are no survivors.
But were they off the plane? Like, did they even get out of the plane?
Last question.
Sir, Victoria Sanchez with
So, hang on a second. Right now, we're going through the debris fields. Nothing we've seen would indicate that maybe slides or chutes were deployed. It was a very quick, rapid impact. But we've seen nothing in that regard so far from the evidence we have, but we still need to verify all of that information. One more question?
Victoria Sanchez, ABC7. Right here. Sir, are you going to be looking at the family member's cell phone?
Go ahead.
Jeff Cook at ABC News. What do you know about the altitude of the helicopter at the moment of impact? And can you talk about the procedure for such helicopters in that area?
The question was about the helicopter procedures. And in D.C., it's kind of a unique environment. We've been getting briefed more and more by the FAA. I'm not an air traffic control specialist, but they're actually helicopter zones, if you will, or tracks. And this one was transiting, I believe, from track 1 to 4 as part of their normal procedure. If you live in D.C., you see a lot of helicopters going down into this area. So there's a very well-defined system in that regard. As far as altitude, until we get the additional information, we can't validate or basically corroborate any of that until we get more of the electronic data and the data that's on the plane. I do want to clarify one question that also came about cell phones. You know, today's age and time, a lot of electronics and other devices do contain a lot of different information. We've found on a number of our accidents that we actually are notified through a smartphone that made sense then. As part of our process, we will obviously treat all of the effects of the deceased with dignity. We are already starting to pull that information together. If we feel that it's necessary to find or pull some of that information, we will work with the families and make sure we do it in a manner that's respectful for them and their privacy. But right now, we don't have any plans specifically on that amount, on that area until we need to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the end. Plane crashes, helicopter crashes. I hope there's some type of expediency on this because
Further
sometimes.
updates on
What happened? Why you cut him off? Why y'all cut him off, man? Or I got the
Please
source.
follow on X or Twitter.
Okay, they cut it off too. So, yeah, these are the official people for that information. And I mean, I don't know. I hope it doesn't take years. I was a little surprised, but maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. That they still haven't recovered the boxes because the planes are right there. They're not, the plane and the helicopter's right there. It's not deep in the water. It's a couple of feet in the water, 7 feet or something, the plane. But, you know, it's going to take time. Those black boxes, I forgot how long they said they're good for. I don't know if they said 30 days or something. That they withhold the information. I mean, unless it's changed. I used to watch documentary videos where they said 30 days or something like that. And this third, one of the victims here, 16-year-old skater Spencer Lane. This other person here, this lady, fifth victim in D.C. mid-air collision, 52-year-old Evgenia Shishkova, who was a Russian figure skating coach and a former competitor. She was the 1994 world champion and the 1995 through 1996 Champions Series final champion. So put a picture to some of the victims. And this is 55-year-old Vadim Naumov, a Russian pair skater with his wife. He was with his wife. Oh, okay. Okay, she passed away. They were together. That's one of the pilots, the captain, Jonathan Campos. And so I want to see. Oh yeah, this was some new video of the White House. You can see the mid-air collision from the White House on this camera. Right here. Or is it here? I don't know. Oh yeah, right there. Yeah. Crazy. A couple of videos though, real quick. I wanted to show Captain Sully Sullenberg. You guys know who that is? I think this is the guy. Isn't that the guy that landed the plane on the Hudson? Captain Sully. Let me double check here. Captain Sully is best known for his actions of U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on January 15, 2009, when he ditched the plane and landed on the Hudson River. So he reacted to this crash. Let's take a look at that video. Captain Sully.
Joining us now is the former airline pilot, well known for being at the controls for the miracle landing on the Hudson River, Sully Sullenberger, who is also the former ambassador of the U.S. to the International Civil Aviation Organization. Ambassador, thank you for joining us this morning. I always enjoy seeing you, but I wish this time it was under different circumstances. I know that you have been following, you've been hearing the reports. Can you just give us your perspective on what you believe happened?
We don't know yet. The investigation may take a year, but the NTSB investigators will find the probable cause and the contributing factors. We will learn from it, and we will do what we always do after an accident, learn from it and improve our system, change for the better. What seems apparent from the air traffic control communications is that the airplanes were able to see each other, at least one was able to see the other, and the air traffic controller was able to relieve himself of the requirement to have him separate the airplanes, and the pilots would have to separate from each other visually by identifying the other aircraft and staying a safe distance away. And obviously at some point, separation was tragically lost.
It was, and given your decades of flying experience, you know, folks are just scratching their head and they're saying, Sully, how could something like this happen? How could it happen?
Well, we have to realize how many things have to go right every day for us to have this now ultra safe transportation industry. You know, we have in this country, you know, 10,000 flights a day, 10.2 million flights a year, and we operate them all safely. But it's hard. It's hard to have the diligence and the dedication to adhere to best practices on every minute of every hour of every day, every week, every month, every year for a decades-long aviation career. That's what's required. And any lapse could potentially be fatal, even though we have a lot of safety layers in there. If all the dominoes line up in the wrong way, we can have, on rare occasions, a catastrophic event. And it's important to know that given it enough time, given enough flights, given enough flight hours, eventually whatever can happen will happen unless we work very hard to prevent every incident from turning into an accident.
And I know that is the goal. That is the goal. Can you talk a little bit more about Reagan National Airport? We've heard about the congested airspace, but also the runway and landing there at Reagan and on this particular runway. Can you give us some insight there?
Yeah, it's a legacy airport built, a long time ago to different standards. Of course, it's been upgraded in certain ways, but it's landlocked, with the river on one side and civilization on the other. There's not much room for expansion to make the runways longer or to have larger safety areas. And it's kind of a special airport that pilots need to have unique training on to fly in and out of if you're an airline pilot. It's considered a special airport that requires a bit more study to operate there safely because of the short runways, because of the proximity of other airports, and because of the traffic level. It's a high traffic, high density area, and lots of different kinds of traffic that's mixed together. In this case, helicopters, fixed wing aircraft. And anytime you have a mix, it makes things more complex.
We only have a few seconds left. Airline safety. I know that is paramount on your mind and the minds of many, and you can understand with all the near misses that we've been having, the apprehension of the public. How can you make them be rest assured about airline safety?
That the chances of any one of us being in an airline crash is infinitesimal. And that we have a lot of people who work very hard every day and are very dedicated to keep us safe. And we have thousands of people doing that every day. We just don't know who they all are. And
we appreciate what you have done. Ambassador Sullenberger, thank you so very much. Always appreciate your insight and perspective. It's very reassuring. You take care.
That's Sully giving his thoughts. I thought it was interesting too. Let's see where he said it. Was it here?
To adhere to best practices on every minute of every hour. We have in this country, well, we have to realize how many things have to go right every day for us to have this now ultra safe transportation.
Yeah, much like
Nancy Kerrigan speaks at Skating Club of Boston.
everyone here has been saying, is not sure how to process it. Shoot, I'm sorry. Which is why I'm here. Many of you may know my husband's my agent, and he keeps getting calls to do interviews, and I thought that was weird. I didn't feel like it was right to be home and doing interviews for this. And so I called Elin. I'm like, what are you doing? I think we just all need to go together. And she said, let me call my mom. And so we're like, okay, we'll meet you in an hour. And we just wanted to be here and be part of our community. I've never seen anyone love skating as much as these two, and that's why I think it hurts so much. And I mean, everything. Tenley's always here supporting the kids, and anytime I've been able to be here and watch them grow, the kids here really work hard. Their parents work hard to be here. But I feel for the athletes, the skaters, their families, but anyone that was on that plane, not just the skaters, because it's just such a tragic event. And we've been through tragedies before as Americans, as people, and we are strong. And I guess it's how we respond to it. And so my response was to be with people I care about and I love and I needed support. So, so that's why I'm here. And I don't know, a little bit at a time. I think it's a shock. I wasn't woken up in the morning and saw it. I was watching like all night. So I probably look tired, but, and then when you find out, you know some of the people on the plane, it's even a bigger blow. We just wish them well, and like the families, the courage and the strength to make the next steps. I don't know how. You look at people go through tragedies and you wonder, how do they do it? I don't know, but we're so strong. Somehow we have a reservoir to dig from, and each one of them are strong enough to get through this somehow. It will take time, but look beside you, there's somebody that cares, and I don't know, tell people around you that you love them because you just never know. Don't forget to say it.
Can you reflect on Vadim and Jenya, what kind of coaches they were, and did you work with them?
I never worked with them. I mean, we were at the Olympics together, but in '94 I was kind of busy myself and sort of separated from a lot of what was going on. But I mean, I've seen them a lot of times here and there over the years, but everything you've heard of them, like maybe being a little tough, but with a smile on their face, and like anytime I walked in, oh hi, it's so good to see you. It's like always welcoming and happy to see one another, and like so just to walk in here and not see that is, I think, would be very strange for everybody that comes here, especially those that are here day in and day out, and it's going to be hard. And I always feel like, what am I doing? I don't come to the skating club all the time, but it was the only place I thought I should be right now. I did not expect this, neither did Stanley. I'm not sure, but we just wanted to be here with each other, and for Doug. We watched Doug's interview, and
that helped us.
It did help. Thank you. Yeah,
there are so many memories, and just having seen the skaters competing and knowing that Max is now, he did so well in the nationals. He's made the world team as an alternate.
They're saying too that staffing at the air traffic control tower at the Ronald Reagan National Airport was not normal for the time of day and volume of traffic, according to an internal preliminary Federal Aviation Administration safety report about the collision that was reviewed by the New York Times. Wish I had that link. I forgot somebody sent me a link before how to get past the paywall article stuff. Forgot who that was. I'll look it up another time. Okay, let me pull up some more stuff here. Hang out for a little bit. Oh, this was kind of weird. Unrelated, but a different flight. And I've heard a couple of times about these, and I've mentioned them briefly, these stowaway stories. 2 found dead in JetBlue plane's well were teen stowaways from Dominican Republic. What the? Oh, no. More stories of stowaways. More than likely, you will not survive. If you think you're going to sneak into the wheel well, you're not going to have oxygen up there. You might freeze up there, get hypothermia. There's so many things that could happen to you up there. So Jake Anulis, Lucy, and Elvis Borges Castillo were found dead in the plane's landing gear compartment at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport on January 7th, were identified by their mothers using photographs and DNA. Wow. Castillo was 16. Luisi's age wasn't made immediately clear. Both died from asphyxiation from lack of oxygen. Wow. Mamma mia. Somebody mentioned this. This is a good point, though. Says wonders about the security at third world airports. Anybody can just get up in the wheel well. You got to worry about what they're going to do. They're going to bring you some type of devices, explosives. This clip here, a former Black Hawk pilot dropping a bombshell hypothesis about the Washington, D.C. crash, saying that she believes neither the American Airlines jet nor the chopper would have seen the deadly collision coming. Full interview here. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. That's the full interview, 27 seconds?
Air collision is the least survivable type of accident an aircraft can be in. They would not have seen it. Either one would have not. They would not have seen that coming. They would not have known until they hit. And obviously from the video, you can see there was a flash of explosion. So it is just a tragedy of epic proportion.
Oh, here it is.
And it's all preliminary because there's still, obviously there'll be a lengthy investigation. So the staffing issue is the crew chief. So they needed to have 2 crew chiefs in that crowded space to look at each side of the helicopter. One crew chief could only look on one side. And so I'm absolutely sure that is a contributing factor for the Black Hawk not seeing and deconflicting, which is their responsibility to deconflict their space. I actually flew in and out of that airspace last week. So I've been there. It is extremely crowded airspace. That's normal. And the routes at there is a published route for helicopters with 200 feet. They should be at 200, and then coming in on an approach or a takeoff should be at least 200 feet of clearance. There also should be on air traffic control's radar, but they're also low enough where it should still be picked up. So yes, it's crowded. It is a known route to Arlington Cemetery, the Pentagon, the White House. I mean, they all take that kind of route along the river. I don't know that the route will necessarily change, but I think the policies of what radio they're on and how they communicate, because my understanding is obviously the airliner was on approach. They were on the approach channel, right, and air traffic control. And what's coming out now is that the helicopter, the Black Hawk, was on a tower frequency. So they were on different frequencies, both under air traffic control, but not at the same time. So they didn't hear each other even.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting if true. They have a live view of the plane and helicopter cleanup. Plane and helicopter cleanup. We'll check that out for a little bit. Wow. Have you looked at the H-60? This was the Black Hawk reported. They have a lot of viewports. Let's take a look at it. H-60. Six years ago. Sikorsky. Let's take a look at this one. Boom, 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 boom. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's try to find find a video on it. The Sikorsky. Wow. Oh yeah, it does have. Look at that. A lot of V-ports. Nice looking chopper. So they had 3 people on flight. People are thinking I've seen some people thinking it's a conspiracy and a cover up. It's the government. And some people saying it's DEI.
Helping people that are in huge debt, and they can use that money to live, to buy food, to buy groceries, to maybe help themselves and grow a business.
Okay.
I understand what he's saying.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you why I don't agree once again. Okay, so you get people that are in their 20s that have this college debt that's getting it. They haven't even lived life yet. They haven't even had a chance to get a chance.
It's not just about people in their early 20s.
I understand.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of I'm very handsy today. It's a combination of different things, Brian.
Okay, I don't know what they're talking about. And there was this was kind of interesting, a little bit interesting. Tourists at St. Martin Airport were blown away by the powerful engine of the airplane blast. What the? All this stuff is getting pushed into the water.
Holy shit! Look at all those people's stuff! Oh my!
Wow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye to all your stuff. All right, let's see what else we got going on. Oh, let's do this.
Well, far from me to place blame on any pilot, particularly when I don't know the details. But it's very difficult at night to see. You've got a lot of lights out there, and you think, gee, you've got this big airplane with big bright lights. There's a lot of bright lights out there.
What happened?
Very close to the water there at night. A helicopter's a handful to fly. I flew them for 10 years. It's a lot going on, but you know, you're a skilled pilot. You're comfortable doing it, but that doesn't take away any from the complexity of flying it. The aircraft is on final approach. He's worried about traffic. He's worried about lining himself up. He's worried about airspeed. He's worried about his altitude. He's got a lot of things going on. That's the most difficult and most complex, busy part of his entire flying is the landing. And he's got a lot that he's looking at inside the flight deck. So both of the pilots have their hands full, and then you add traffic on top of it. It was a bad situation.
But clearly a mistake made somewhere in your mind.
Somebody made a mistake somewhere, obviously.
And last question, you know, there's a continuing debate, particularly with, you know, on Capitol Hill about continuing to add flights there. Do you think this suggests a step back and maybe taking some traffic away from that airport? Any opinion about that?
That's like saying, do you want to stop traffic on 495 because there was an accident? The most dangerous part of air travel is driving to the airport. You know, I know these are catastrophic and it's sad and it gets a lot of national attention.
So they're saying now, reports are coming out that at the time of the crash, one controller was working 2 tower positions. Hell nah. Hell nah. Hell nah, bruh. And there's been talks of, understaffing at that place. This is according to a source in CNN. The source describes the setup, which had one person handling both local and helicopter traffic, as not uncommon, though, is what they said. Not uncommon, they're saying. So one person manning both. At times, the New York Times, which first reported the details, says an internal preliminary Federal Aviation Administration internal report says staffing was not normal for the time of day and volume of traffic. Reagan National Control Tower is 85% staffed, the source said, with 24 of 28 positions filled. So then, I guess they're not. They're saying the source said that setup is not uncommon, having one person run both.
Revive that conversation. Back to you in the studio.
And no doubt it'll certainly be part of this investigation moving forward. Ted, I know that you've got some new information that we've been following too.
Yeah, I think this is coming from an NBC source with knowledge of the situation. And it is important to add context that what we are talking about is the staffing last night at the tower at Reagan Airport. And keep in mind as we lay this out, what
I
we're
like
about
it,
to tell
Donna. Thank you. That was a cool
under
website.
FAA standards, but not normal, is the way this source with knowledge explained it to NBC News.
You know how much trouble that
Typically,
gets
the
me in.
tower you see there on the right side of this screen, staffed with.
Oh, Lord. What happened, man? What happened to you guys? Let me bookmark this.
Of traffic that Reagan
67
Airport was
dead.
dealing with last night.
And I'm going to guess by what we heard during that NTSB briefing,
Yes.
that will be one of the things that they look into.
And the NTSB was asked about it. They said they've not reviewed any reports about staffing at the tower, and they won't comment until all of that information is validated. But if what the source with knowledge is telling NBC News turns out to be true, it is a very great question about why there was only one person doing the job typically done by two.
You know what, I as a viewer, because I'm a viewer myself and our viewers as well, I think a lot of people just think, why does it have to take something like this for all of this stuff, to the movements to happen? We hear this time and time again with all sorts of disasters. When there's a disaster, then things change.
But let me offer not excuse but explanation. The air traffic controllers have had an issue with staffing for some time. Not putting blame on anyone, but I think we've all reported that there aren't enough. Last year, the Biden administration did say they met their target of hiring, according to a press release they put out in the middle of last year. But there has been an issue with trying to get enough people to staff those towers, not just here in Washington, but across our country.
What if they talk about mental health and all of that, and we don't know the cause, we don't know any of that, but for that person, and we know there was a person in the tower who's now, this discussion is happening. Imagine, him and her are thinking, I think about that person as well, that sheer responsibility that one person had on this.
A lot to investigate, a lot that will be gone through here. I think, in the midst of all the investigations, as everything begins to play out, we've heard from everybody that the main focus right now still are those 67 people who lost their lives, both on the airplane and on that helicopter. I know our Drew Wilder has been out at the Ashburn Ice House all afternoon. He has been talking to members of the ice skating community in our area. And Drew, I understand you spoke to a young person who may have lost a friend on this flight.
Yeah, Sean, it was about 45 minutes ago. A dad walked out of the Ashburn Ice House skating rink. At the doors behind me, he had his arm around his 10-year-old daughter. He said, "My daughter lost 4 of her friends and her coach last night." It was an incredibly powerful interview. They wanted to share how they're feeling right now, to begin their grieving process and let the community know just how tight-knit the figure skating community is here in Northern Virginia, throughout the DMV, and really throughout the country, and that so many of these kids and these families know each other and have known each other for several years. We're going to talk a little bit more about what they had to say coming up in just a few minutes, but right now we're going to play the interview with this father and his daughter in its entirety, because I think a lot of what they have to say over the course of this 5 or 6 minute interview is really powerful, and I think it's important that all of it is played. So take a listen to our interview with Jeff and his daughter Alexis Winch.
I said my daughter lost 4 of her friends and a coach. And last night we were watching as a distant observers until we started piecing together some of the elements, like the flight number and the timing, and the fact that we'd spent a week watching on television some of these skaters and looking at the scores that they were getting. And when we put 2 and 2 together, it was after 11 p.m. And then, you know, my wife just busted up. She was completely destroyed, and we didn't tell her until this morning. And yeah, I mean, you hear on the news talking about the Boston connection, but there's a lot of other rinks here. The Washington Skaters, Figure Skaters Club has probably 3 times as many people that were involved last night as the ones from Boston. So we're just trying to come together with one of her good coaches, Ina V. How long has Ina V been your coach?
I think 1.5 years.
1.5 years? And her other coach is also called Ina, and she just didn't happen to be at that event. So, yeah, I mean, just was 2 weeks ago, we were watching some of these skaters. Franco, 17-year-old boy, doing some amazing... 17.
14.
He's only 14? Okay, he looks much older. So I was watching him skate. He's a fantastic jumper.
The erection thing is what you think about my daughter.
And to think that it's over.
How do you... I got a daughter, and I don't know how you had that conversation. How did you...
This morning, 6:30, we got up. We said we got to tell her before she goes to school. We don't want her to hear from anybody else at school. So we had a conversation this morning. At first, she didn't quite understand what we were trying to tell her. And then I was a little more blunt with, you know, you've lost friends last night. So it was very hard for you, wasn't it, dear?
I mean, if you could speak to those other parents or the other family members who lost loved ones. I mean, how do you begin to heal?
You watch it on TV, Crow?
Tight-knit community of you know.
My wife was too broken up to talk to you, and I said, well, we should say something, you know. And so I don't come to the skating rink as often as my wife does. My wife is here with my daughter almost every single day. 5-6 hours a day skating. This is their lives, is this kind of effort. And the people that lost their lives, they were completely vested in this, so much that they were doing homeschooling, and they were just here from early morning until night, skating. Just it.
Hoping to one day skate at the Olympics?
Yes. And that's what my daughter's path is. That's what she's chosen. She wants to do that. And she's trying to qualify for different levels right now. She's a year behind one of her friends that was on the flight. Maybe next year my daughter would be at that event.
I don't know how you begin to process this. I mean, you could tell us about...
How old are you?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 10.
10. Can you tell us a little bit about your friends and the coaches and I guess kind of how you're even beginning to process any of this?
Well,
put it up here, maybe.
One of them, the one named Franco, he really wanted to go to the Olympics, and then he was really excited, but now he can't go. And then my other one, her name is Lydia, and she's my age, and she just got a new dance partner, and now she can't dance with her partner. And Lydia's sister, her name is Everly, and she can do triples, but and she wanted to go to the Olympics too, and she's a really good skater. And then another one is named Brielle, and she's really, really talented, and she can do triples too. And I really I look after those people, and they were my inspiration.
I don't know, it's a roller coaster today. I mean, she said to my wife on the way to school this morning, I don't know how to feel. And we said, whatever you do, just try and feel. Just, you know, and this is going to come out of her over the next couple of days. It's not over yet. It's just beginning.
And tough for you as well.
I didn't think it would be this tough. You know, supposed to be a tough guy, but I guess I'm not right now at all. You know, we came to grieve.
Talk about that. I guess this place, I mean, has got to be usually just so alive and noisy and exciting.
I'm surprised when I walked in here just now to see it almost empty, with the exception of her just trying to forget out there on the ice just now practicing. You can see she just came out here with her skates on. I said, come with me and get some air. And it's I don't know how to process this at all. You know, especially when we were watching from our bedrooms last night, going, you know, another accident, it's really bad. And then when all the pieces of this puzzle just came to click together, my wife just came unglued, and she started calling friends that we knew were at the airport last night waiting. And then all the pieces just flew together, and we knew before 1 a.m. last night that we had lost a lot of family.
Okay, wow. So that was pretty emotional there. And his 10-year-old is dealing with that. Friends and stuff passing away. I wanted to check out this video clip. It says DC resident describes plane crash scene. It was sirens, nothing else. We'll check this out for a little bit. I'm going to check for some updates as well. Let's see if they have.
River there. And Matthew, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News.
You know, and it was sort of one thing that everybody in the city focused on at the same time, and it just sort of brought the city to a halt. And it really sort of reawoken those scars last night. It's difficult to tell, but the first flights of the day actually just departed here at Reagan National Airport. Ordinarily, you'd have flights out at 4 or 5 in the morning, but there was a ground stop that was just lifted at 11 a.m. So now the airport is up and operating again. But I can tell you, you know, here in D.C., it's easy to get used to sirens. It's easy to get used to police lights everywhere. There are motorcades going by left and right all the time. We live in the nation's capital. And yet looking out last night and seeing a mile, 2 miles worth of police lights lining both sides of the...
Yeah, it was pretty wild last night. They're saying now the body's recovered, I guess has updated since we've been streaming. And it says at least 40 bodies recovered. Okay. Let's see what else they have here. This is the father of DC crash victim pays tribute to his son. We'll play that real quick.
Created our family through adoptions. Our 2 sons are adopted from South Korea. Spencer, who was on the flight, who was our oldest son, came home in 2008. And was really just kind of a force of nature. And about 3 years ago, saw Nathan Chen in the Olympics and decided, hey, I could do that. And even though people train since they're, you know, a small child and it takes them years and years to develop skills, he started and learned to skate, learned to skate. And 3 years later, he's in Wichita, Kansas, on the national development team for U.S. figure skating, training with former world champions. So he was like a phenom and just loved it. And it wasn't anyone pushing him. He was just somebody who loved it and had natural talent, but also just worked every day. He went up to Boston every single day, did high school online, and was just all in on figure skating and was great at it. And his coaches were also on the flight with him, wonderful people, former world champions from Russia, and some other skaters. And so it's just devastating. And Christine is, just a beautiful, creative person. She is someone who just has many different talents. She began a career as a graphic designer, is amazing at photography. She creates quilts in a little shed over there and that are just amazing and blow people's minds. So just a wonderful, caring person, loves animals, has hedgehog, dog, volunteers at animal rescues, and, was recently, joined the residential properties as a real estate sales agent here in town and was very excited about that.
Yeah. Another clip. So, yeah, the pressure that we covered earlier is kind of